Hey, thanks for tuning into the Land and Home Show. Today we're talking all about the $1.78 billion lawsuit verdict against the National Association of Realtors and several named brokerage parties. So let's get into it. Hi, I'm Stephen J.B. Davis, your land specialist and residential realtor here in Central Kentucky and beyond. And thank you for joining me on this unseasonably warm November day. I think the high today is like 80. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to try to make this video as quick as possible because I have to get to the gym before attending to other business. But I really want to talk about this because of how much speculation and questions there are about what this means for the real estate business, for the real estate professionals, all that kind of thing. If there's nothing else that you take away from this video and you don't read anything or watch anything further, I do hope that you heed to these two pieces of advice. One is just to slow down. I think people are in such a rush that a lot of this lawsuit stuff, which I'm going to get into, is really the result of people not asking enough questions, or when they hear answers just sort of like in one ear out the other. We live in a very fast-paced world. You can get, an Amazon package the same day now, and the instantaneity with which people expect things to happen, I think sometimes overshadows things like buying a house or selling a house that are much more serious than, the glitter that you just got for your kids' school project on Amazon, or the magazine you decide to buy on a whim while you're in the grocery store line. But real estate is really serious, and I think that sometimes people take the everyday consumer mindset and kind of keep that mindset when they start to engage real estate, which I think is objectively the wrong way to approach it. So open ears, slow down, and be ready to talk some things out. Then the second thing is that I want to make it super clear, negotiating commissions has always been legal. In fact, we settled this in the early 20th century, which is a lot of what this lawsuit revolves around, the idea of an antitrust practice. You can ask for someone to lower their commission. Some people may have higher commissions. I'm going to get into it later, but there's different commission structures all over Kentucky. I've experienced them, and I have some of my own. But negotiating commission has never been illegal as a seller or as a buyer, because sometimes buyers do pay. Sometimes, most of the time, sellers pay. Certainly in residential real estate. But if you take nothing else away, understand that commissions are negotiable. There is no set commission. Okay. All right. With that said, I want to tell you about the nature of the lawsuit and give you a Cliff Notes version. So in Missouri, sellers brought a lawsuit to court because they felt like they were forced to pay buyers a commission, and they did not think that was fair. The suit claimed that this model suppressed competition, effectively violating antitrust laws. They felt that it meant by paying buyers commissions, it suppressed competition and also kept commissions at a high rate. And so then the verdict was in favor of these sellers and various parties involved for the judgment of $1.78 billion. I'll give you my reactions later, but that is the long and the short of it. Okay, so I want to set a little bit of a stage for where commission started, where we've been for the past several decades, and then talk about where we are now and get to my thoughts and reactions. So when real estate was first becoming regulated, there was no such thing as a buyer's agency and seller's agency. In essence, there was there was an agent who listed a home. They had a seller. There was you, for example, that wanted to buy that home, and you contact me to show you and help you buy it. In that model, not only was the listing broker and the seller responsible for all commissions, part of the reason why was because everyone represented the seller. Meaning, if you're the buyer and we're in the car together back in the 60s, 70s, I had no fiduciary or legal responsibility to represent your best interests. I didn't. That's the way that it was. I think this is also where these lingering perceptions of realtors come from when we're often compared to car salesmen. And that's no disrespect to car salesmen at all. There are some great folks out there that deliver great service, but objectively, the model is that you're there to help someone to buy a car. They're there to help you buy a car. But at the end of the day, they answer to the dealer, the person who owns the lot, who owns the inventory. So there's this allegiance, like you're a customer of them as opposed to a client of them. That's the difference between fiduciary responsibility. Customer, I owe you, practicality, honesty, dealing with you on an honest level, but like that's about it. I'm looking out as a car salesman for the dealer, trying to make sure that they get the max amount of money. And if I don't, I may sell a few things at sticker price or below, but I'm not going to be on that car lot for a long time. As a realtor, you have a client relationship, and that's where that fiduciary responsibility comes in. Which is what happened in the 90s. So if we move to the 90s, what happened was, okay, wait a second, you're not after my best interest, like I want my own representation. That became a lot more widespread. So now you had the person listing the house who represented the seller, you call me, we're riding in the car together to go see the house and I'm going to help you buy it. I actually represent your best interest now, legally. Like I could be sued if I do the wrong thing. We compare ourselves to lawyers a lot, not because the pathway to become each profession is the same, but because fiduciary responsibility is the same. We have a fiduciary responsibility to our client, lawyers to their defendants or their plaintiffs, us to our buyers or our sellers. It is the same thing. You could lose your license, you could get sued yourself for monetary damages. The stakes are high. So that's where we've been for the last several decades. And in this most recent model, where there is buyer representation and seller representation, the seller still pays both the buyer and the seller out of their net proceeds. Sorry, the buyer's representative and the seller's representative out of their net proceeds. So they pay all commissions. That has been the general model here. And really, I guess I'm kind of moving on into my thoughts, but my editorial on that is it's not really that crazy. It's essentially a finder's fee. What did the buyer's representative do? Well, the buyer's representative brought you a qualified buyer. And it's not like the seller could necessarily represent the buyer because that's not legal to have dual representation in all states. And you as a seller not all sellers feel great about dual representation. So if you're a seller and you don't want a buyer to be represented by your listing agent, but you also want a qualified buyer in the room, but that buyer is like, well, you've got someone on your arm, you've got an attorney, you have representation. Why should I come into this deal without it? That's where the whole buyer's rep and seller's rep difference started to happen. Let's play fair on both sides. And so it's a finder's fee. I don't think I need to explain that. That's how I feel about that. But if we continue on, I want to quickly describe how realtor commissions work. A lot of what underpins this lawsuit emotionally, it seems like, is this idea realtors get paid too much. And as a realtor, again, I'm biased. I don't have any reason to not be. I come to my conclusions, I think, based on fact. But this is not a news show, so you may or may not disagree, and that's fine. It's a free country. But realtors are not getting paid as much as you think they are. Is the bottom line. So let's take a little example. If I have a $12,000 commission, okay, great. We're not going to even talk about if that was a 4% commission, a 6%, a 3%, whatever. At the end of the day, the check says $12,000. Well, let's talk about where that $12,000 go. First, you got to split it with your broker, unless you're a broker yourself. That's a whole different license, at least in the state of Kentucky. It works different by state, but most real estate agents belong to some sort of brokerage. So your split with that broker could be anywhere between 10% and 40, which is nuts. I'm going to split the difference, especially just knowing how a lot of, I keep using the word split, especially knowing, my colleagues in this field, they're at various brokerages, and I would say it is safe to quantify that split as a third. Let's just call it 33%. So you take a third of $12,000 and now you're left with $8,000. Okay, fine. Well, now you've got to pay taxes. Taxes are fun. I'm going to conservatively say that your taxes are around 30%. So now you're left with $5,300. It's a decent amount of money. Okay, fine. Well, how long were we working together? Meaning, how much gas did we spend? I've got a cell phone and all of these other pieces of technology and association dues and MLS memberships that I have to pay for yearly. That stuff's not free. My broker doesn't pay for that. I've got to pay for my real estate insurance. Not a whole lot of money, but it's a cost. I've got to pay for my health insurance because that's not something that comes out of my check every month. I'm not employed in a standard way. I'm a 1099 contractor. So you add all that kind of stuff up, and let's call it $3,800 later is the price on the time it took me to help you find a house and negotiate on your behalf, connect you to all the people you need to be connected with to know what's going with this house and if you really want to have that house or not. $3,800 spread over however long it took you to finally say, yeah, this is the one. Or in other markets, for you to finally win after offering multiple times. $3,800 is what I'm left with, having started at $12,000. So not every commission is $12,000. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 2. It can be lots of different things, but that's the breakdown. So I wouldn't say that realtors are making so much money. If you see a super successful realtor, they've worked really hard to be that way, listing or buying side, or both. So that's how commissions work. My thoughts and reactions to all of this. For one, I just don't think, I think that the headline makes it seem, it misses a lot of points. One, it seems to intimate that there's this collusion to keep the commissions high. In fact, that's what the actual case was about. And I don't think that that's the case, at least not here in Kentucky. I have been paid everything from $500 as a flat rate, not a percentage, on something that $500 is certainly nowhere close to 2%, 3%, 4% of anything. And I've been paid well over what you might think of as standard. Even though there is no such thing as standard, whatever it is, this 5%, 6% figure, I've been paid over that, especially in the land world. I do think that the issue here really is there are a lot of not great agents out there because the bar is low to get a license, probably in every state. That bar is low. And there have been bad agents who help people get into homes in a really not great way. People feel cheated. That's understandable. I also think there are buyers who make decisions before they really consider the relevant consequences. And the two of those things together bring me to the bottom line of, I think it's bad for bad agents, and I think it's bad for unserious buyers. And the reality is there are both. There are people who are happy to just be in and out of houses with no intent to buy anytime soon. And for the longest time, as I went down the line in this whole commission history, buyers really don't have a lot at stake on the front end, not until they sign their name on a piece of paper and are under contract with escrow money. There's very little skin in the game for them. And so I think this changes things for those people who actively understand that and take advantage of that. I think if you're a serious buyer, you're going to be fine. You may see more retainers out in the marketplace where a buyer's agent is saying, okay, hey, I'm going to need X amount of dollars to, render my services, which, that seems like a huge change because no one's ever had to do it. But you can't get a plumber to your house without a service fee. You can't get an electrician to your house without a service fee. You can't sit down with a lawyer and say that you want to hire them without a retainer. Like, it's not a new thing. It's just that for some reason, real estate has always been exempt from, as professional as I think the National Association of Realtors has really tried to push the industry in. There are a lot of things that the public really rejects that otherwise bring that professional gravitas to the profession. And so you may see more retainers. You may even just see buyers paying commissions outright. Again, not a new thing. If you're in the auction world at all and you want to buy whatever that piece of art is or whatever that car is or whatever that real estate is, guess what you're also paying? A buyer's premium. Where do you think that premium is going? To pay commissions. Like, these are not new concepts at all. And all of these different fields continue to go forward. So do I think it's overall just a categorically bad lawsuit verdict? No, I think I think that you're in trouble if you're an unserious buyer and if you are an unserious or poor performing buyer's agent. I do think for sellers, I think most smart sellers will probably continue to offer a buyer's commission, because at the end of the day, especially in this economy, interest rates are high, closing costs are higher, people's payments are higher. Like, people are strapped for cash as buyers. And so as a seller, do you want to, castigate a bunch of people who may not have several $1,000s to pay their agent out of their actual liquid money that they have not borrowed? Or do you keep that buyer pool open of qualified buyers and say, you know what, I will pay the buyer's agent for essentially a finder's fee for bringing a qualified buyer that closes? And I think that if you want to have that best opportunity, that's probably what you will do. You don't have to, but it's probably what you will do, because the reality is you will have less buyers looking at your place and less buyers to choose from if you're going to rely on a buyer, especially in these economic times, to look at your house, offer in your house, and then also pay a certain amount of money out of their pocket in addition to all the other closing costs that they have. You don't have to like it, and you don't have to do it. It's just, what chance do you want to give yourself to selling your property? And maybe you're super motivated, maybe you're not. Maybe time is on your side. But it's all up to you. My phone's ringing. I gotta go. And I hope this helped elucidate some things. Leave me your constructive comments below. We don't have to agree, but respect is key here. And if you can't be respectful, then, you can kick rocks. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'm here to help with your buying and selling needs for land and for homes, Central Kentucky and beyond. Adios.